How many remember Vokal? Born in the proto days of streetwear, back when it was commonplace for every popular rapper to have their own clothing line, Vokal was linked to one of the most popular rappers of the day. It was the early 2000s, and radio stations seemed to have Air Force Ones or Grillz on a constant loop, and Nelly was all over MTV and BET. One of the only ways that you could see your favorite artist back in those days before social media. And whenever you saw him, he was always wearing Vokal. But when was the last time you saw anybody wearing Vokal? Ever wonder how they fell off? Well, let's find out. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the rise and fall of Vokal clothing, the Classics edition. But before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button for me. Liking and sharing the video helps the YouTube algorithms notice us and suggest us to more people. But with all that being said, let's jump right into it. It all started when Yomi Martin's mom moved away to Virginia and left him a house. Martin, then a student at Maryville University, moved in with his cousin Cornell Hines Jr., who worked at UPS by day and grinded as a then unheralded rapper named Nelly by night. Hoping to promote Nelly's group, the St. Lunatics, the two men designed and printed up a set of oversized t-shirts. For the first production, they each paid $100 to have 30 shirts made featuring the St. Lunatics, Nelly's group, and childhood friends whom they had been rapping with for a little while. And with some help from their friends Ian Kelly and Nick Loftus, they founded Vokal Clothing. Yomi would sell the shirts for $20 each at the St. Lunatics concerts, and it turns out people actually liked the designs. And with all of the grind that they managed to put in, they managed to get the brand into several mall stores around the city. The group's name began growing in popularity. Vokal even started touring with the St. Lunatics, representing and selling clothes at the events. The group of friends would catch their big break though in 1999 when Universal Records signed them. They saw a lot of potential in the group's frontman and decided to give him the biggest push though, which paid off considering 2 years later Nelly was a multi-platinum solo artist and Vokal had secured national distribution for the brand. The fact that Nelly was such a huge artist at the time really helped their popularity. They sold things like denim and t-shirts and velour jogging suits. The baggier the better, considering that was the style at the time. Vokal quickly joined the ranks of other lines backed by hip-hop celebrities, including Diddy's Sean John and Russell Simmons' Fat Form. It also really helped that the clothing game had recently undergone a transformation. I spoke in previous videos about how prior to the late 90s or so, hip-hop clothing brands really weren't a thing. I mean, sure, you had brands like Karl Kani and Pelle Pelle, but they were a niche thing at the time, and hardly any of them were owned and created by young black guys. I mean, Karl Kani obviously was, but he was one of, if not the first. But the point being made is, it certainly wasn't an industry. The late 90s saw a boom in what was being called quote-unquote urban wear. Rappers were beginning to launch brands that better represented the style and lifestyle that they were into, rather than reappropriating preppier brands like Polo and Tommy Hilfiger. During Vokal's peak years of 2002 and 2003, Martin says the company generated between 30 and 40 million in annual sales from stores including Macy's and Dillard's. Things couldn't have been going better for the friends. Their homie was doing his thing on a global stage and their clothing line was all over the place. What could possibly go wrong from here? Well, turns out, a lot. And in 2004, some rap group from Florida decided to sue Nelly over the name Vokal. Members James Wilson and Cameron Keynes filed a lawsuit in Orlando, accusing Nelly, because let's be honest, he was the face and the money guy, of trademark infringement and unfair competition. The two men stated they were a part of a group called Vokal that they had been using since 1994. They signed a distribution deal with Universal in '98 and retained the right to use their name alone. The same time, Nelly signed with the exact same label. They claimed Nelly was well aware of the group before he began selling the clothing line, and it grew to become a multi-million-dollar company. And all the legal trouble caused Vokal, the brand, to halt production and sales while they attempted to see what the next move would be. Luckily for the brand, a judge ultimately ended up throwing out the case, stating Nelly and the brand were not liable for trademark infringement because the mark in question, Vokal, was merely descriptive. Which honestly sounds like a bunch of legalese to me, but what mattered to them was they could finally get back to business. And by 2005, Vokal prepared to re-enter the market. But nothing came out. Throughout 2005, nothing was released and their site wasn't being updated. In 2006, they began selling in Europe, but sales figures were unclear considering the guys at Vokal were never really that open about their earnings. One thing was for sure though, Vokal sales had suffered as a result of the hiatus. Shortly after it disappeared from the store shelves in 2004, street fashion underwent a dramatic transformation. Baggy sweats were out, and a new genre with a completely new look had been born. It would come to be known as streetwear. Vokal had essentially been left out in the cold. And in hindsight, was there even really a way for them to make it out of this situation better than what they did? I mean, sure, they had built a style that was no longer trending though. It was like a label being built on bell bottoms or something when people were wearing Timbs. Sure, they could have completely revamped their look, but it just seemed like it wasn't in them. And on another note, I do think that they probably stole the name from those other guys. I mean, if the guys were telling the truth and they had been using the name since the 90s, and they and Nelly were both signed to Universal, then it's highly likely. Basically, they had gotten muscled out by a bigger star. I looked to try to see whether or not they had gotten paid to go away, and I couldn't find any information, but I'm sure they did. And at the time, it probably seemed like a good investment to Nelly, but it was actually like a harbinger of death for the brand. The Friends would still have apple bottoms though, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But what do you think? Do you remember Vokal back in the day? Hit us up in the comment section and let us know. Also, if you made it this far, then obviously that means you liked the video, and we hope you hit the like and subscribe button for us. Liking and sharing the video is the best way to help us to continue to grow as a channel. Also, if you want to be updated whenever we drop a new episode, then hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell so you'll be dinged when a new video drops. But with that being said, I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com signing out. Until next time, peace.